And coming to you, Harrison, in five, four, three, two.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time in September. A month we'll always remember. My first Topic Time show of September of 2023. It's a Zoomer, and I have an awesome guest. He's somewhere north of Boston, and he's a young gentleman who's helped homeless veterans for 25 years, and we're going to talk all about that. He may play a little music. He's kind of an older crooner. I said young gentleman. He's young, but I'm younger. So to that end, he's an old crooner, but he's a young gentleman. But before we get to him, got to read these incredible underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So we have Way to Heaven in Norwell. We have the Hanover House of Pizza in Hanover. They make great Sicilian pizza, Greek salads. They have awesome people working there, and they deliver. We have Kingston Auto Body in Kingston. We have South Shore Market in Pembroke. We have New England Floorscapes in Middleborough. We have Comfort Upholstery in East Bridgewater. We have Salon Giovanni in Marshfield. We have Rodney's Kitchen in Halifax. We have Genuine's Inspection in Middleborough. We have Crazy Axe's Rec Center in Hanover. We have Bulldog Sports Cards in Middleborough. We have Pembroke Radiator in Pembroke. We have Bryant's Auto and Tire Service in Middleborough. We have the Gunrunner LLC, the Second Amendment Freedom Store in Middleborough. We have DNS Auto Works, collision specialist in Abington. We have Wild Roots Hair Skin Healing in Middleborough, and they're a new one. I want to thank you guys very much. So now on that note, I'll introduce Mr. Scott McGrath. Is that it? Very simple sounding name.
Hey, how you doing? What's going on?
Not much. You can hear me now, right?
I can hear you loud and clear. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I thought for a second that we cut out of something because I don't know. You look like you were trying to make some adjustments, like out of desperation for a few seconds, and I was a little concerned, but I guess that's not a problem. You're all set now, right?
Just about presentation. I want to get the picture okay,
Oh, I appreciate that. The picture's fine, just so you know, and I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes when a guest does a Zoom show like this, I especially like if there's sometimes I'll have more than one guest, and they'll be like pushing their heads almost against the screen, and I'll cut off the top of their heads. You got plenty of room on your zenith between your head and the zenith point of that ceiling fan. As long as I can see the ceiling fan that you got hovering over you, then I can see you fine. But so you're perfect. You're right. You're perfect. You're right centered up. You couldn't be any more perfect for the shot. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. So are you in your home there? It looks like a nice house. Is that a house or is that an office or what?
I've lived here all my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it. I lived in some years, and back to Lowell, Massachusetts. It's like the mafia. You try to get out, and they pull you back in.
Yeah. Okay, Lowell was okay. I mean, I actually had I don't know if you've ever watched Lowell Cable, where in your neighborhood, but I have a friend who I sort of like collaborated with. He's got a show kind of like mine up there. His name's Bob McCarthy. I don't know if you've ever seen the Bob Show. He does like sketch comedy and he does films. He's won some awards, and he's interviewed pretty big people too.
I've been on his show. I did an Elvis thing. He loved it.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, give him my best when you see him. Do you see him around town at all?
Bob, he's a character, right? So he's doing all kinds of crazy things. He's doing the wrestling thing. So
yeah, the wrestling, yes.
Elvis said, Scott, can you do a little Elvis for us? Bah, 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 bah. So I had my wig and my outfit and and he loved it. He loved it.
Yeah, I know. Boy, you're a showboater. I didn't realize that. This is going to be wild. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, so obviously now tell me something. Have you, aside from, I know you've helped homeless veterans, but have you ever done anything else? Like, have you done anything in entertainment, even if it was just entertaining at the Elk Club or something, or just doing stand-up comedy? Have you ever done anything like that? You seem like you have a flair for something, sort of. I'm getting from this talk right now.
I've been in a couple of cigar bands, 50s bands, little gigs by myself up there. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, tell me about I mean, you lived in, that's it. You've actually lived in that house your whole life. Is that true? You've never moved? That's amazing.
I lived in Lowell all my life, ever since a kid, you know, old family, the same old friends and family. Most of my family lives in Lowell, so it's a comfortable situation. Like I said, I did live in Somerville for a couple of years.
Okay.
And went to Hill over there.
Yeah, yeah. Whitey's gangs.
I never met Whitey, but I was up on went to Hill.
Wow. Yeah, my brother lived in Somerville too back in the early 90s when he actually owned some properties there. He does real estate, and he owned like 3 multi-family dwellings, and I used to go up and visit him. And if you're gonna live in Somerville, you gotta like living in close proximity to other people, because as you know, I don't think there's one single family home in Somerville. Everything is at least a three unit deal. And then the one he lived in was like 6 units. So he had plenty of people, to the left and right of him, no matter where he walked in his house, in his apartment. And it was good because he got along good with his neighbors, and I met them, and we had parties and barbecues in the summertime, and that was always sweet and everything. But Somerville's okay. That's, it's working class, but it's nice. It's got some good shopping district, and it's close to Boston, obviously. Right. And that, so you are retired now officially, right?
Well, I'm retired, but I'm still working. So I have myself. I have a 4-family. I have a 2-family. I have a beach house. So
wow.
Going on with tenants, toilets, whatever. There's always something going on.
Well, wait a minute. You do real estate? Is that what you do too? You sounds like you've done real estate, or still are doing it. Is that right?
More or less like being a landlord, taking care of properties, buying properties, selling properties.
Okay, so you're a landlord. That's what, like my brother was. Wow. Eventually he sold all his properties because sometimes I know that when you own these properties, it is your obligation to keep them up and to keep them up to code so that the tenants don't have problems like little kids eating lead paint or asbestos or any of that stuff. And I know that's work because depreciation on real estate occurs every single day from whatever, the elements or who knows what, termites, you never know, right?
Yeah, it's always something. If it's not, like I said, a toilet, a hot water tank, you get things once a year. You can't have locked doorknobs on bedrooms. So sometimes the tenant will put a locked door on their bedroom for whatever reason. And then, a cracked window or that's faulty. The fire alarms have to be all up to code. So there's always something going on, always something.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's right. The fire alarms too. I know. And you're still at it, right? Is after all these years.
Still at it. I'm still at it. That's why I have this gray hair.
Okay. Well, listen, it's very becoming, I think. Well, let's talk about what you did with homeless veterans. You said you helped them for 25 years, right?
Yeah. So I started working at the VA.
Okay.
Got involved helping homeless veterans with getting them back on their feet.
Okay.
So we're coming out of the service, and in the beginning, they were Vietnam veterans. So this is 25 years ago.
Yeah, right.
That are coming back, PTSD, shell shock, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of times their issues were stemming from things that happened during the service.
Yep.
And they left there, for whatever reason, they didn't have the family that they needed. So they went out there, and because in Vietnam, drugs were very cheap. So they were shooting up, they were doing drugs, and they had a lot of problems. So from the Vietnam era to Iran, Iraq, a lot of veterans come out, and they may be trained to be a tank commander. Well, that's a hard job to transfer those skills to something in society, driving a tank. So a lot of times they come out and they don't have great employment histories that they can transfer. So that has to be retrained all over again. And a lot of times people don't have the skills or the whereabouts, or they don't know where to look. And so they get depressed, they're homeless, they're in a shelter someplace, and if you're hanging around with people who are doing drugs and alcohol, you're going to get same thing. They say the barber, eventually you're going to get a haircut. So same thing. If you hanging around with drugs and alcohol and these people, you're going to eventually start doing that stuff. And that rolls into a whole situation of guilt, anger, your loneliness, because then you're not, your relationships are very bad, very bad.
Were you in the middle? Yeah. You see, your audio seems to keep cutting out. Is there anything you can do about that? Can you hold your microphone or something?
I can hold it a little bit closer right
now. Yeah, hold it. Just keep it, because your audio keeps cutting in and out. That's the one thing you need. That's something I've noticed since we've been talking.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Just keep your hand on it. It's probably better that way, because it keeps cutting out. All right, now, are you a veteran yourself? Did you serve in the military?
At the time when they were having the draft, my number was something like 250. So I didn't get drafted for the Vietnam War.
Okay, yeah, that was the time, right? You're a little older than I am. By the time I got old enough to be drafted, the war had ended, and I lucked out in that I didn't have to register, because I was born in 1959, and then President Jimmy Carter in 1980 decreed that anyone born in 1960 and after was supposed to register for selective service. So, yeah. But my father was in the service, and he worked at the VA too in the 50s. At the VA hospital in Brockton, where I live.
A lot of my friends that went there would come back, and they weren't correct. Either they were hooked on heroin, or they just different with PTSD. And I was glad I didn't go there, because I lost some of my friends over there. And the friends that came back from Vietnam, they weren't the same. So they were lost still too.
Yeah. Of course, yeah, I know it's a tough road though. I have to admit, as a teenager in the 70s, I smoked some weed, and I got to try some Vietnamese stuff once, and it was pretty good. But I don't do that anymore. I mean, I got out while the getting was good, and so unfortunately, some of the people that were my contemporaries did not. It's amazing. I was just, I actually started high school 50 years ago yesterday, which blows my mind. And on Facebook, I have a group of people that graduated with me. We all have this Facebook page called Brockton High School Class of 1977 Graduates. And I pointed out that it was 50 years ago yesterday that we all started Brockton High School, and people are just exploding with disbelief. Like, yeah, wow, that's unbelievable. 50 years since we started high school. And so the thing is, but some of those people, a lot of them are no longer with us, because they used stuff, and I used stuff, get high and stuff. And I stopped just before I turned 20 back in 1979, about a month. I just had that anniversary too. 44 years clean as of September 2nd. So, and it's great. I know. Now, do you counsel these veterans as well? How do you talk to them? How does that work?
So when they first, a lot of them are resistant and get affection about their life, because they've learned how to push people away.
Right.
On the street, you have to protect yourself.
Right.
So you're pushing people away. You have no idea about friendship, intimacy with people. And so you have this big block between yourself and people all the time. And it's a tough, and sometimes you need, what we used to do is get other veterans to start confronting these people who are hard-nosed about changing.
Right.
And so, correct, very confrontational, talk about their past history, what they did to their family. And then when they finally started breaking down, then we would build them back up. You can do it. You got a brotherhood here. We're going to be here for you. And it's a great feeling when you feel connected, because if you don't feel connected, you are not going to make it.
I understand. You think the veterans would be treated better after all, the service to the country that they provide. And that's always miffed me big time, because I couldn't understand why the government doesn't take care of them. I guess because there's so many of them, or what do you think it is?
Let me tell you, and they were coming back from Vietnam, they would come off the plane. And so because of bombing and killing that they were ordered to do, they were spit on.
Yeah.
disgraced. They were called baby killers.
Yep.
Most of them would come back and not even tell they were veterans because they were embarrassed and they didn't want to start any crap between people and themselves. So it wasn't something like veterans coming today who are very proud. You hear people say, hey, thank you for your service. Back then, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like a lot of these guys would go into themselves, not talk about their horrendous PTSD and crazy stuff they were ordered to do. They were ordered to be killers.
Yeah.
We're going to kill the Viet Cong. Right? Right. And they would do atrocious things. Then when they came back here,
Yeah.
you can't talk about it. And so you have all this pent-up feelings about atrocities. Now you're feeling crappy about yourself. And now you're doing drugs, alcohol, you're drinking, and so on and so forth. And it's a spiral. It goes downhill from there.
Yeah, I can see that. And you know what you brought to mind is the My Lai massacre, and I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah.
The Cali case all those years ago. And I don't know, I'm trying to remember what happened to him. I don't know if I know he was court-martialed. I don't know if they convicted him or not.
Yeah, he was convicted. He went to jail. Yeah.
He did. Is he still with it? Did he pass away or is he still around? Do you know?
Email in the public. Imagine being ordered to go in a helicopter with a machine and shoot everything that's moving. Viet Cong, Vietnamese, cops, whatever.
Women, children, I know.
Spraying bullets all over the place, and you get crazy. You're ordered to go out and kill. So you're out there shooting, you're killing, and sometimes these people would get to be a little bit over the top. They would cut the ears off of the Vietnamese, Viet Cong, and have it of ears on their neck. Sort of like trophies instead of skull.
Yeah, yeah.
They would cut the ears off of their victims, and then they would have it chained because they were they were trained to be killers. And, you know, people shake your head and go, oh my God, they were doing what? They were trained. You're a killer. Are you ready? Let's go get those. And then off they went. And so when you do it day and you're getting shell shocked and the bullets are flying, you're drinking, you're getting high, and it's rah, 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 rah. And then you're going to come back the next day. What are you going to be like? You're going to be crazy. You're going to be psycho, right?
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, that's right. And it's hard to hero worship people that do that, you know, even though that's what they were trained to do. I mean, the war was awful. I mean, I remember as a kid watching the news with my parents in the 60s and thinking, oh, I'm going to be in that war someday too. Yeah, I'm going to have to go when I'm old enough. You know, I mean, because every night of the week, Walter Cronkite would, you know all about that, right? Obviously. Yeah. Okay.
So they would not be connected to the family, didn't want to talk to anybody about this situation. And then they would get involved with drugs, alcohol, and then they wouldn't have a job. And then there was mental illness. Some of them were supposed to be on medication. They were bipolar, whatever. Yeah. And then use would come in between drugs and alcohol. And if they were doing heroin in Vietnam, you come back over here. Now you're looking for the same kind of feeling. And then you start stealing from your family because you don't have any money. So then now you get the disconnecting with the family. And now you don't have any place to live. You got a top, you're going in the park or you're going in the woods, whatever. You may hang out with some other and cooking and cleaning or whatever. But it was a tough situation. So we would get them out of those camps and bring them into the program, confront them about their problems, have other veterans connecting with them and say, we're in a brotherhood, okay? We're in this as a family. We used to call ourselves a family. And now they felt belonged to. Now they could open up about how they felt about whatever was going on. And other veterans could relate. I understand, brother. It was terrible, but we're here with you. Keep on talking about it. You got to talk about it every day. And it's a self-examination thing every day. You have to take ownership about your responsibility. So if you go over there and you have an anger problem and you come over here, it doesn't change just like that. You have to have some introspection about what the hell's going on with you. If not, you're going to keep on going and going and going. And other veterans will say, I understand. This is what I do now. Instead of flipping out on people, I take a deep breath. more, and I don't go off on people. I know this is my problem, and I have to get better at it. And then they would start a relationship with other people, reconnect with their family sometimes, and it was a process. It was a process. It took like a year and a half before they would get back on their feet.
Wow. Yeah. Gee, that's okay. Well, I mean, and for you, it must have been quite a process too, because you had to be patient with them, and you had to deal with all this stuff, and you had to help quite a few people, I guess, too, right?
It's unbelievable. So I was a social worker, counselor, helping people. Some of the stories, okay, I'm just an average Joe. Some of the stories they would say, it took a lot of strength for me just to hold back and not say, what? Oh my God. Cutting fingers off and fighting with the police and throwing junkies off the roofs of houses and prostitution. And I'm just a regular guy from Lowell, Massachusetts, and I'm hearing these stories, but this is their life. This is their life. So for me, you got to hang on to your feelings and stuff like that. You just can't say, oh my God, because if I do that, they're going to shut down, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. All right. Look, I mean, that's quite a revealing story you got. Now, are you involved in it at all now anymore in any way, with any of this stuff or not?
So when I retired from the VA, I belonged to a church.
Okay.
Homeless in Lowell, Massachusetts. And then when they heard of my past experience working with the homeless, it was almost like I was saying before, like the mafia. You try to get away, but they pull you back in and say, oh, Scott, we understand you work with the homeless. You want to help us start this program? And I went, okay, yeah. So we started a program, feeding them, getting them all kinds of medical help, getting them back on their feet, getting them employment, and helping them with their housing and stuff like that. And it's sad to say, and that's with anybody that's trying to get off of drugs and alcohol. Most of the times you're going to have relapses.
Yeah.
Most are going to have relapses. It's very rare that a person who jumps in the program their first time, they catch the sober bug and they're okay. I saw maybe 2 or 3 in my life. So they try. They try. They have a little bit more time of sobriety, then a little bit more time. And then they start getting it, feeling good about sobriety, feeling good about how they're feeling about themselves. And then they finally get it. The other thing is that it's great if they can get involved with AA or NA, some kind of supportive group, to surrender themselves and learn about the 12 steps and about talking about what's going on with their feelings. Because if you don't have family and if you don't have any place to talk about your stuff, your job, whatever's going on, you're not getting your SSI, you got medical issues, whatever, that is going to build up, and before you know it, you're doing something crazy.
Right.
So the other issue is that if you're not connected to some good people, Friday night comes along, Saturday night comes along, you're all by yourself, you usually go back to what you know, which is going down to the bar with some of those bar flies down there, and before you know it, oh, I've been sober for 3 months, I can have a beer. And so you try it, oh, I'm okay. I think I can have 2 beers. I think I can have 3 beers. Let's have a shot. Hey, Charlie, let's go. And before you know it, you're back in the soup. 5 days later, you're on the floor, passed out. How the hell did I get like this? It's sorry to say, but it happens most of the time.
Yeah.
So they rehab and they get back and they have to learn this. They have to learn this, connect and get involved with AA, NA, some kind of supportive. If you don't have support, you're not going to make it.
Right, and you got to be consistent too. You got to stay with it. Well, listen, Scott, this has been a very interesting interview. We're down to the final 5 minutes. I hope you had fun talking to me. The audio kept cutting out, but I think we still had a great discussion. Okay. And what I want you to do, like I said at the beginning, is just look at your image finder there and just give a few shouts out to people. You can, your family, friends, and then we'll wrap the show up the way we began it with my music. So go ahead.
Well, I want to thank you. I was kind of surprised because who am I? And then you saw me on Facebook or something like that. But
exactly what happened.
invitation.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. You did a great job, and you've opened. I think you're going to open a lot of eyes to the people's, to their plight, to the public that may not have seen this before. I know I didn't even realize what a serious. I knew it was serious, but I didn't realize it was that serious until now. Obviously, I know it's got to suck being in that situation. So, and now I think and by the grace of God, this interview will get out there and maybe, help other. If it helps one person, it's to recover from the situation, then it's taking a steps of a million light years. You know what I mean? And so
One thing is that you never give up on people.
right.
1, 2, 3, 4. It says in the Bible, forgive 7 times 7. You got to stay with these people. Eventually, they'll get it. You have to have hope. And sometimes it takes them for going to jail. Sometimes it takes getting frostbite, having their toes taken off. Sometimes it takes something traumatic. And sometimes it's a mental institution. You just go crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then you're in jail for 3 months and you're going like, what the hell? Maybe I should change my life. How the hell did I get here? And then you start opening up and getting involved with different programs.
Right. Okay. If you had fun, if you know anybody with an interesting story to tell, any of the people you've worked with or whatever, just you have my digits, have them text me. We'll get them on my show, either by Zoom or in person, whatever. And I think, I get a lot of guests now like that. And I'd be much appreciated.
Hey, I'll do that.
Okay. All right. So great. You did a great job. You ready to wrap the show up the way we began it?
Let's go.
Okay, folks, welcome to September for more Topic Time shows coming up. Take care. We're signing off. Over and out. 4.